I'm Jennifer Jones. I'm the park manager at Tallulah Gorge State Park.
And I'm Ann Wiley. I'm a DNR law enforcement game warden assigned to White County in the Northeast Georgia Mountains.
So, Jennifer, you're the manager of this park, and Tallulah Gorge is probably the most rigorous hike of all state parks.
Yes, sir.
Explain more about that, and what are some of the issues that you face as a manager of this beautiful place?
Yes, sir. It's a heavy visited park with population. It's more of a day use type park, but we do have several strenuous trails, almost 1,100 steps down and back up to the both rims for the whole loop back into the interpretive center. And then we also offer a trail that's permit required. That's a gorge floor trail. It's about a 4-hour long hike that has 2 river crossings on it, as well as a treacherous hike back up. That's
treacherous or more arduous?
Arduous work as well.
Yeah.
It's about a 700-foot elevation change in about a quarter of a mile. So, which leads to, like you said, a lot of rescues that we have on this park. Anywhere from dehydrations, dislocated shoulders. We've had some broken ankles.
How does someone dislocate their shoulder? Just fall?
Falling, yes, sir. If they fall and how they land or trying to catch themselves. We have sprained ankles, so we have a little bit of everything.
And you just don't get there quickly. It's not like driving up to a residence and getting out of a vehicle. What's entailed with all
Correct.
this?
It all depends on where the injury has taken place and how quickly we can access it. If it's on the North Rim Trail, obviously we come straight from the building down. If it's further on the South Rim, we're able to drive around to a restricted access part for park personnel only and get there a little quicker that way. However, any rescue that's not on the stairs and it's on the gorge floor, I mean, it's a good 20-30 minutes to get to that patient.
Yeah. Is there cell service down there?
Yes, sir. All the way through. AT&T, Verizon, you can have service.
So they call and say, hey, we have somebody injured.
Yes,
so you've got that pretty quick.
Yes,
it's not like they have to come up and get you.
Nope, they'll call 911. 911 immediately turn around and calls us, and then we're on the move.
Yeah. And how long have you been here at Tallulah Gorge?
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yes, sir.
Were you within DNR before that in other parks?
Yes, sir. I was at Vogel State Park 2 years prior.
So you kind of came up through the ranks like others?
Yes, sir.
To get to this position?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What kind of training did you have for search and rescue prior to coming here?
Once I came to this park, Tallulah Gorge, it's mandatory that we join the search and rescue team. So we fill out an application, it gets approved for our manager and then headquarters, and then we do trainings throughout the year. We become emergency first responders. That's big for us. And we also maintain our CPR, first aid, AED. We do aviation training, we do wilderness training as well. So it's a process we go through every year to keep up with our knowledge.
So that professional development is key in a role that you have here with this park in particular.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And you mentioned aviation. Well, how's that come into play?
Yes, sir. Training-wise, everybody that's on search and rescue, we have 3 points on property that we can lift an individual up via aviation. Ellie participates with those trainings with us, so we can lift you from the bottom platform, Oceana, and then Sliding Rock. That's the only 3 locations. Obviously, if an injured patient, they're not at one of those 3 locations, we transport them to that location. So during the trainings, we actually have the Stokes basket with a patient, well, it's a dummy patient in it, and we practice them dropping the basket, securing the patient, rising, the patient back up. Aviation will go to the landing zone. They'll practice, dropping that patient down in a proper manner, and we hit all 3 locations. Ellie is very present with us during those trainings, as well as local resources. Habersham County and Rabun County assist with that. And then Lee Arundel Prison has a volunteer fire women's group that helps us with a lot of rescues. And they coded those trainings to be able to enhance their skills during one of those situations.
Oh, that's cool. Well, and you obviously are involved with these types of situations. From an LE's perspective, what is your role to assist the manager?
Well, mainly we assist them, and it's very nice to have those groups, all of those groups come together. We always work well together. When it comes time for a gorge rescue, it takes a lot of those trainings that are hands-on, that pre-exist before the accident actually occurs.
Yeah.
So we've had several rescues throughout the years that I've been up here as well. And so every time we get together, it just seems like they really work out well because we all know how to work with one another by now, and those trainings have assisted us with that. So basically what we do is we respond, and we are the main communications between the helicopter and the ground team that's going to rescue the person on the ground.
Okay.
And we're able to communicate with everybody and then make sure that that person gets back safely. We catch the basket with the person that's in, having a pretty much a different type rescue that no one else really gets to experience. I call it a rescue of a lifetime a lot of times.
I'm
Because
sure.
if you're down in the gorge and you're coming out on a 150 line rope that has the Stokes basket as well. And of course that person's probably in deep major pain. They're really not being able to experience it at the time, but it would be nice to hear some of the feedback on those as well.
Yeah. Well, like Jennifer, she had come up through the ranks. How did you become an LE officer?
Well, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do when I went to college. And I knew that I wanted to be in outdoor recreation, and somehow my advisor told me to go over to Berry College and participate in a practicum over there. And I met one of the technicians over there, and she was a woman, and she was tall and fit, and she really just put me through the ropes of what it was going to be like to work with them. And that was under Wildlife Resources back then, under game management. But, I ended up having to do a lot of volunteering with the WMA and also with other organizations. And then, of course, I fell in love with DNR and wanted to become a game warden.
So what did that entail once you knew that was your path, the game warden?
Well, I just really stuck to it and realized that, I had to get my foot in the door somehow. So I ended up day laboring for a fisheries department and having my application in. And it didn't take long. It took me about 2 years to get accepted. I didn't get accepted the first year round, but the second year I was able to run with it.
Yeah,
so
but you stuck with it, and that was the key.
I did, and I knew from then, once I got on, that I wanted to do it for my career. And now I'm into it with 26 years of service, and it's one of the best jobs that I think that anyone can have and experience. And one of the things that I've said to a lot of people, if you want a first-class ticket to a career and adventure, this is it.
Every day is different. I'm not cut out to do the same thing over and over and over again. So every day, like she said, is a new adventure. It's never the same. So.
Right. Well, there's also people who make bad choices when they're in the gorge. Beyond being injured, which we don't want anybody to do, they're lawbreakers. What are some of those examples that people do? I'm just curious.
Yes, sir. One is the Gorge 4 permits. We issue 100 a day. They're non-transferable, so once that first 100 is gone, that's it for the day. And that's to protect the resources down that are in the bottom. However, also on days that we don't issue, we'll have a few people that drove 2 hours to come for that particular hike and go anyways. That's when LE comes into play. We have spots where we can see people enter the gorge. We have little lookout points. Once we realize somebody has entered, that point without a permit, LE comes over. They assist with helping us get them out in a proper manner, and then the proper citations. And if you want to discuss that aspect of the citations,
that works really well. A lot of times, you're just getting cited for no gorge permit, which is pretty much a criminal trespass citation. But, the main thing is some people think that, we're just picking on them because they crossed a barrier, and they don't think it's very severe.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from our standpoint and you see what all goes on with a rescue and how many people it affects and the cost of it.
I can imagine the helicopter is not cheap to call in.
That's exactly right. The county ends up having to pay for a lot of those. The county and the state,
So the individual is not held accountable for any of those fees?
Not usually.
Not usually.
Really?
sometimes, if they don't have a permit, I know that their fees can be a little bit more expensive if you do have a permit during a rescue.
Right.
But it's summertime right now. Our beach is also open. We have a lot of kayakers, paddle boarders. Ann and Ellie help with make sure everybody has their personal flotation devices and their proper gear, and abiding by, boating rules as well. Occasionally I'll have a car break in. I'll have somebody lock their keys into the car, things of that nature. With law enforcement, they have several counties. I'm on the park. When I come to work, this is my location.
Right.
So it's very helpful when we see these things to reach out to them, and they're able to come assist from other locations that they may be at the time.
So, and you're assigned to the park. Are there other LE officers that are close to you, or
Well,
or you just coordinate with the county and local law enforcement if you need backup or something?
I'm not exactly assigned to the park.
I would take her though.
And I would love it.
I didn't know if it's part of your region. or
Beth
something.
Gilbert is actually the game warden that's assigned
That's right.
to Tallulah Gorge, and
That's
she's in training today, so I'm stepping in for her.
Okay.
But so basically we have some game wardens that are assigned to different areas, whether they're on a park assignment, or they're a boating safety assignment, or
Okay.
they're a game warden inside a county. So basically we all work together. We all do the same thing still. So we support each other every chance that we possibly can.
Sure,
And there's not a lot of us. We're stretched very thin for a very far area.
Right.
Our work unit is basically combined of Rabun, White, Habersham, Stevens, and Franklin County.
Okay.
So, and usually there's one game warden per county.
Okay.
And then we have our regular days off as well. So if someone's off today, or if someone's in training, then we'll rotate around and catch the calls in that area as well. But we are in the most, and Tallulah Gorge is in the primo area of recreational activity.
Absolutely.
The Northeast Georgia Mountains just bring so much recreational activity to where we could afford to have more game wardens in this area to help out.
8 million
with
people
the load.
just 2 hours away.
Correct. And it's our job to educate them before they enter. We try to educate enough so they know the do's and don'ts. So these guys don't have to come so often,
That's the
because
goal.
they are stretched in. But like you said, every now and then, we have that incident when we do rely on them.
Yeah.
And we just try to work hand in hand to resolve the problem as best as we can.
So, in closing, what are your recommendations for a Warnell student who wants to pursue a career like you have?
Yes, sir. If they're looking for parks and historic sites, my suggestion is if there's a local park nearby. If they're a University of Georgia student, obviously Fort Yargo is probably going to be their closest park. Go and get your foot in the door. Whether it's a boat clerk or a front desk clerk or a maintenance position, just to go ahead and see how the daily operations of a park works. I think they'll be very surprised from one day you're cleaning boats for rentals, and the next day you may see maintenance having to cut trees down to open up the park due to a storm. So there's a lot that goes into play. Looks very good on a resume to know that somebody is already interested enough to take that part-time position to see how operations work.
So from an LE perspective, what does someone need to do to prepare to follow that career path?
Basically the same thing.
Okay.
In addition, of course, have that bachelor's degree or 2 years of college. That's what's required with us. It's at least 2 years of college or an associate's degree. And there's so much competition in this job because there's so little of us that I would suggest going into criminal justice, going into take some of the biology classes and environmental science studies, but definitely get your foot in the door like Jennifer said, and really work towards that goal and make those connections and network with people and really just seek after it.
Yeah, the network is so huge, and we've heard that so many times from others that we've talked with. If you don't have the network, It's not what you know, it's who you know.
So,
And those experiences on those resumes. It's so important.
yeah, it's nice when you get a resume and you see they worked at Fort Largo, and I can just pick
Yeah.
up the phone and say, hey, Julia, you know, and
Yeah.
while he's applied, give me some of your thoughts. And it goes a long way. I think we both like to see where somebody's had a little bit of experience prior to jumping in.
Sure.
That's right.
Well, thanks for your time today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for
Great,
having
you all.
us.